My name is Margaret M. Apodaca. I was born in Trinidad at Mont San Rafael Hospital, but I was raised in Valdez, probably about a half mile from the Valdez coal mine. I went to the Valdez Elementary School, which was about a block away from the Valdez coal camp, and then on to Sarcillo, and then to Primero Junior Senior High School. Later on, TSJC and Leslie University. I had a career in higher ed and retired, and now I'm just a genealogist, amateur genealogist. I had 6 in our family. An older brother and 2 sisters were already away from home by the time I started school. So I grew up with a younger brother and an older brother. And we almost never traveled to Trinidad. Once in a while, we would come to Trinidad with my mom to do shopping, but for the most part, my mom shopped at the Ringo's store in Segundo and Old Segundo, and at a store called Lloyd's, Romero's store up in Old Segundo. And it wasn't till high school that we actually came to Trinidad. Trinidad was, it was so far away from where we grew up, it seemed like. What I remember about the coal camp, which was, again, about a half a mile away, was the houses. They were all in a row. I believe they were all white frame houses, and they had fences around them. I felt as though when I went to the coal camp, I was going to a wealthier location, because they actually had some lawn. They had a few flowers. They had green gage trees and peach trees. I don't recall that they had sidewalks, but they had defined walking areas. Whereas where I lived, we were isolated, and it was just one house, and for whatever reason, we lived apart from the coal camp. But life in the coal camp itself always seemed busy. Activity at the YMCA was busy. They had Boy Scouts used to meet there, and I don't quite remember other activities that went on there. When I was growing up, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't feel poor, but when I look back at photos, I see really how poor we were. I'm not sure why we didn't live in the coal mine camp, but I do know that from the money that my mother received as an insurance from CF&I when my grandfather died, she bought a house in Valdez, and it was an adobe house. She eventually, her and my older brother, whitewashed it and plastered the walls themselves, and then later on she had a kitchen added on. But I remember my younger brother and I having to go down to the cellar to get coal so that we could stoke the fire at night. I didn't have to, but my brother had to haul water from the river. We lived fairly close to the Purgatory River, and he used to haul water so that my mom could do the laundry. And we probably had a half an acre that we grew up on that wasn't kept, but we grew a garden with beans and cucumbers and that type of thing. We had a cow, we had some goats, we had chickens, we had rabbits, so we ate a lot of that. We would shop at the company store for vegetables, but vegetables were rare, and so was drinks like orange juice was rare. All of that came again pretty much after the coal mine closed. Then I'm not sure how my father survived other than the bar that he purchased. And he purchased in 1951, the year I was born. So I guess that's how he provided for us. Yeah. Family traditions when I was growing up were small, oriented when I was little, because my brothers and sisters were also fairly young. But as they grew, they were older than I, anywhere from 16 to 14 to 12 years older than I was. As they got married, they'd come home with their families, and we'd have big dinners. All of us younger kids would sleep on the floor under homemade quilts, all gathered in the living room. My mom had a small home, but we had the traditional Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, that type. Mm-hmm. I see what my husband went through in the coal industry when he was a coal miner, the injuries that he suffered. My dad had black lung. My grandfather was killed in the coal mine. My other grandfather worked for CF&I as a plumber. So I have a rich history in coal mines. But sadly, growing up in the elementary school, even in college, I learned absolutely nothing about the coal industry. I never heard about coal camps. I never heard about coal miners. It wasn't until I became an adult. And we've always taught our children, we've taught our grandchildren, we've showed our grandchildren where the mines were, we've showed our grandchildren where their ancestors are buried. And I value what my dad must have gone through, what my grandfather must have gone through, and what this community has gone through. And I take pride in what the community has been able to continue as far as the culture of coal mining through Yolanda and Mike Romero, the Coal Miners Museum, the Coal Miners Park, the memorial, the bringing of Mr. Tikas's statue, the way they've been able to keep coal mining alive in Trinidad and in the Los Animas County is fantastic. And I feel as though no matter what direction Trinidad takes, no matter how many newcomers Trinidad brings in, I hope that Trinidad never loses the culture that started Trinidad, farming and especially coal mining. And as far as Los Animas County, the number of coal mines that are in Los Animas County should be remembered.